Hey, what's up? It's CJ here. Hope you guys are doing well. I am here today to talk about DEI. Yeah, we're getting a little bit into politics here. My experience as a black engineer and also the job interview that I will never forget. Today is a video that I would love to, just preference why I'm here and talking to you guys like this. I really want this channel to be a place where I can just dump my thoughts and start conversations and really just talk and just have like a little bit of a deep dive. I haven't gone too deep yet, but I think a lot of the topics that I'm talking about recently are, kind of fairly hot topics. But I also want to make sure that, this is just like completely conversational. Like we're just here, like having a good discussion. And I hope that you're enjoying them. And I hope that it's something that you can kind of take away something and maybe even just hear a little bit more of the inner thoughts that I have. And these are a lot of conversations that I have with people around me. So this helps because those people don't have to hear it anymore. I can say it here. I can say it to you, to those who want to listen. And so today I do want to shout out He Milk. He Milk actually sent me some products recently, and I actually have He Milk on right now. And I have been enjoying it. Smells good, moisturizes the skin. This is it's basically like a moisturizer for the face and the body. They also gave me this one right here, which is the body. The last one I just showed you was for the face. So shout out to He Milk or Body Milk for sending me these products. They might be like, hey, like where's my post at? They sent me the product for free. I apply the product. Some products I like, some products I don't, some products I post about, some products I don't. But I will always accept the invitation to post. Okay, so let's dive into it. So let's really talk about like my career as a mechanical engineer. If you didn't know, I wasn't always a social media influencer. That's not all that I've done in my life. I also have a degree in mechanical engineering. I went to a HBCU called Virginia State University, the Virginia State University. Went there for 4 years. Also ran track there. Got a track scholarship. Ran there for 4 years. Also went there for grad school. And started pursuing my degree and my master's degree in computer science, but I stopped as soon as they stopped funding it. And I was then just in an internship position after school, and that's what I want to talk about today, which is the reality of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion in corporate America. So that's kind of my background. That's how I got my education and where I went to school and what I went to school for. But DEI is becoming a hot topic. And I think this is something that we can now understand now as, politically, that a lot of these terms are tools for political organizations. And a lot of times what they'll do is they'll create a common enemy. Previously, the common enemy was the word woke. It's still the common enemy right now. Previously, the common enemy was the idea of Black Lives Matter. That was a common enemy. Previously, the common enemy was, things like, when we talk about the police force and we talk about, people not being hard on crime. Those were trigger words or dog whistles for people to mask what their true intentions are. And, we heard Black Lives Matter, and then they created, All Lives Matter, right? And then we, talked about police brutality, and then they created, the idea of backing blue. And so these are political like dog whistles that allow politicians and political organizations to rally people around a common enemy. And currently that common enemy is DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, some people may not know what an HBCU is, and some people may not know where HBCUs come from. So if you're one of those people, I'll explain it a little bit. Some people see, historically Black colleges, especially ones who have not experienced them or not know their history. They see them as places like what, like, well, why does that even exist? Why is there a place where all Black people go to, or they only accept Black people? Can white people go to those schools? These are questions that I've heard from people often, and honestly, there's diversity initiatives and diversity incentives for people who are not Black to go to HBCUs. I had white track athletes or teammates on my team who got more scholarship than me because they were white attending a Black university. And I had no problem with it. No problem with it. I think the problem comes when people see people of color getting what they would see as advantages over other people. Now, when we're talking about HBCUs are historically Black colleges for a reason, because Black people could not go to other universities at the time when these schools were created. And so this was an opportunity for us to go to a university, learn our history, get educated, and be able to go out into the workforce, because we were not allowed to go to the other universities, which are now classified as PWIs. And so just knowing that history and knowing how the history of that, when I went to attend the HBCU, this wasn't something that was like, heavily talked about in my family. It was kind of something that like I know my dad knew. My mom didn't really mention it, but when I went to go visit Virginia State University for the first time, it wasn't heavily talked about. This is HBCU, And so when I get there and there's all my people, I didn't really think anything of it because of the fact that, even, when I was in school, all my people was there too. But when you quickly understood, like, especially like my freshman year and coming in, you quickly understood like, this is a vibe. Like, we out here. This is, what I'm saying? This is like, there was a sense of pride there in that school. And once learning the history of the school and learning, what the school stood for and how I, what role I play in that, there's a sense of pride that I'll always keep and have from attending an HBCU. And I think that I would love for all of my people to experience that same feeling. Even my kids, I would love for them to experience that same feeling, because I met people from all around the world and all around the country who had the same experiences that I had growing up. And that, led to deeper connections. It led to my best friend who I have now, and my roommate who I met just, he was my first roommate freshman year, and, we just hit it off. And I still call that man to this day. Hopefully I can have him on the show soon. But DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And when we look at HBCUs, especially being an engineer at a HBCU, you have programs like NSBE, which is the National Black Organization for Engineers. And, I was a part of NSBE as well, which means you get invited to different places to, job fairs and things like that to state your claim and state like the things that you know and things that you have learned, and hopefully get opportunities, at these prestigious companies, and be offered opportunities that you would not get otherwise. And growing up, and then also, getting my education at HBCU, there's very few connections that you have outside of the HBCU. You have the teachers that go there, and then the former alumni that go there that you may come in contact with, that may have connections and may be able to put you on. But I will say that at a PW, there's more connections going on. There's more networking going on. There's more opportunities available to those students, and there's more connections at higher corporations and larger companies that they have access to. And so this poses a problem, especially for someone who is coming from an HBCU. I'm a mechanical engineer. I was a talented mechanical engineer. I, do 3D drafting, 3D automation, 2D drafting. I could do and create anything in any drafting program. And, I knew my stuff as a mechanical engineer. And, finding a job though was pretty tough. Luckily, I stumbled upon an internship because I believe my mother-in-law said, "Hey, have you heard of this company before? I think they're, hiring internships." And it was at Honeywell, and it was the lowest of the low internship you could have. And all I was doing is going around, checking off to make sure there was, fire extinguishers here and there, and making sure all the equipment was accounted for. And so it was my job to keep the digital books and also convert what was done on paper to digital form. And so it was interesting to see the person who was next to me, who was doing the same job that I was. He got the job because his dad worked there. He didn't get the job for any other reason. He didn't really have to apply for it. It was just given to him. And I remember having that conversation with his father. And he said, "I really wish that my son had the ambition that you have, because I gave him this position. You earned this position. And I can tell," and this is what he said, "I could tell that you are walking around this place like you are not going to be here long. You're walking around this place like you have someone somewhere else, some other place that you would like to get to and would like to go." He's like, "My son has been here for 5 years, and he's complacent. He likes the little money that he gets, and he doesn't want to do anything else." He was like, "Keep that ambition that you have, and you'll go far." And so I did. The next year, I left. I had this thing growing, especially being in corporate. I was like, I am not going to stay at one place for too long. I will get the information that I need to get. I will, get what I need from this place, and I'll move on to the next. Because the longer I stay here, the more complacent I will get, the more comfortable I will get, and the least amount of money I'll be able to get. Getting the information from here, getting the knowledge from here, and then moving on to the next place allows me to, one, ask for more money, and two, gain more experience. And so that's what I did for the next couple of years. That's what I did. Now, I then applied for a position at the shipyard, Newport News Shipyard. Basically, I was trying to find a position that was going to, just take me to the next level. And my dad worked there before. He worked there for like 13 years, something like that. So a position came open and I applied for the position. And I remember because, there's credentials there where you have to, everything is behind a gate. I mean, they're building, warships at the shipyard. They're building, huge tankers and things that, but it's behind, you need credentials to get in there. And so the guy came to pick me up outside of the shipyard and drove me in. This is a white feller. This is a white man who I was his candidate. He saw my resume. He liked my resume. He felt like I was qualified for the job, actually more qualified for the job. And so I was his candidate. He picked me up in his car. He drove me on to the shipyard. And his job was to, just tell me what to expect from the interview. But I was to be interviewed along with him would be 4 other head engineers. And so I get into the room and there's one guy who brought me here. Then there's 4 who, they care less. 2 of them didn't even look at me. And there was one who pretty much asked all the questions. And the one who asked all the questions, I could tell that his demeanor when asking me questions was a little bit condescending. And of course, I'm a young black kid. I think I was 21 years old or something like that. I don't know how old. I don't remember how old I was. I had to be like maybe 23, maybe 22, 23. But there's 5 white gentlemen in there. One who I've already met, 4 who I don't know, and 1 asking me questions in a not so great tone. And most of his questions were like, okay, so you went to what school? I went to Virginia State University. Okay, and what degree do you have? Mechanical engineering degree. Okay, and what did y'all learn? Like, did y'all learn the same? Like, did you learn the same stuff as everyone else learns? Like, what could you tell? Could you give me an example of some of the classes you took? Like, almost like my accreditation, wasn't well. I went down a list of the classes that I took and passed and my knowledge base. And, I was a really good interviewer. When I was in corporate, I always had the mindset of, hey, like, you guys need me, right? There's a position open, right? So you need somebody to fill it. If you're going to fill it, you might as well fill it with somebody who knows what they're doing. That's me. You guys brought me here. Like, and so I always had that mindset. Like so I was never like I was an apologetic person. I was always like, hey, like this like I'm your guy. And for the most part that worked. That time it did not work. And, we ended the interview. It was not very productive, mostly because it was very condescending. I could tell that the guy who was interviewing me didn't feel like my credentials matched up with anyone else, strictly because of the university that student attended. Now, Virginia Tech is, not too far down the street. Actually, Virginia Tech and Virginia State use a lot of the same resources. So a lot of what is done at Virginia Tech is also done at Virginia State. And a lot of people don't know that they share the same resources. Virginia State just doesn't get as much resources. They get pennies of the resources when a lot of the state resources and funds go to Virginia Tech. And a lot of times, Virginia State University is doing more innovative things with less money and less funding, and which has over the years garnered support, and now they're receiving more funding, especially for agriculture and especially for programs like the engineering program. And so, yes, that experience and that interview was tough. And leaving that interview, I got back in the car with the guy who brought me to the interview, and he had a long talk with me on my way back to the car. And I'll never forget what he said. He said, in some instances, your degree and your knowledge base will not be weighed the same way that others will be weighed. And I want you to know that you were my candidate. I felt like you were the best candidate for the job. My colleagues might not feel the same way, but he said a lot of that is rooted in the fact that they went to these other universities. And so knowing that, I looked at the corporate world in a totally different perspective. That is what shifted my mindset to say, you know what? I'm going to start using these positions and not letting these positions use me. So rest is history. I ended up going to another place called Riggins Company, and then I went to a place called Boardwalk KC. And then I have my own story about being laid off, but that was the whole story. I think I've expressed that story, but I will, if you want to hear about that, I will talk about that in another video. But the current state of America right now is very interesting. And the reason why I wanted to talk about DEI is because of my short film, Transcend. And I actually wrote Transcend during a time, it was during George Floyd. And I had all these emotions going through my mind. And one of the things that went through my mind after watching George Floyd be suffocated to death, one of the things that went through my mind was, this will never be right. This should not be happening. And what transpired from that, what I birthed from that was, transcend. It thoughts and my what was going through my head at the time. And the premise of it is basically the question that I wanted to ask, the question that I asked myself is, how can there ever be, and one of the solutions that came was like, hey, like maybe we could maybe if there's a way to erase the history. What if Black people never knew that there was slavery? What if white people never knew that their ancestors, were racist, right? What if, we all were able to start off with a clean slate and just move forward from there? And I grappled with that idea, but I also understood that the culture that we have created as Blacks, the culture that we have created in the Black community would be lost. And the love that we have, the compassion that we have may not be the same, right? We are a compassionate group of people because of the things that we have experienced, our ancestors have experienced, and their ancestors have experienced. We have so much compassion and love, not just for our own people, but for other people, because we know what it's like to be discriminated against. We know what it's like to be oppressed. We know what that feels like. And that would be lost, right? The compassion to be able to feel for someone else. And so I think that's a unique experience that allows us to be able to put ourselves in other people's shoes who we don't even know, right? And so when I started creating the film, I was like, well, what I want to do here is I want to create a scenario where that could happen, because that can't happen in real life, but it could happen in this fictional world that I can create, right? And so the idea was to wipe everyone's mind of everything, right? Of the history, of all that stuff, because that's honestly what they're trying to do. today. Wipe everybody's minds of like history and make them forget what happened. But then I wanted to play with the idea of, well, what will be lost if we do that? And so the story is centered around a love story of two people who had an experience together that weren't together, but the love that they had was real. And the idea is that, we would lose those things. Like, we would lose the love. We would lose the compassion for each other. And this is something that you have based off of experiences, right? Based off of how you've experienced the world. And once that is taken from you, so will that. And the idea is that, some time off in the distant future, they would meet again, and they would, that compassion and love would still be there, despite, the history being removed. And so that was the film, and that's why I created it. And knowing that cannot be done in real life, we are in a state of, I don't know, like the state that we're in now is very, very alarming, because we know that these dog whistles, DEI, they're not. Diversity is a good thing. Equity is a good thing. Inclusion is a good thing, including people who deserve to be included, not because of the color of their skin, because they actually have valuable information and knowledge to provide is important. And the reason why I brought up what I experienced in my interview is because without these safeguards and guardrails, people would not do it. They had the opportunity to do it. Those guys who interviewed me, they had the opportunity to include me and to, add some diversity to their team, and to add someone who they, frankly, they didn't know much about me, but they knew what I was capable of. But instead, they decided that this is not it. This is it. And so they made that decision based off of going with what they know, right? They know their people and their things. And so the question is, would that person choose otherwise if there was not safeguards and safety measures to ensure that is being done? And the answer to that is no. They have had those opportunities for years to include and to, diversify and to see other people for who they are and not for the color of their skin. And they have shown us time and time again that they are not going to do that if there aren't laws in place. And so it's important that we understand, especially as young Black engineers, young Black professionals navigating this space, it's important to understand what we're going up against as a young Black professional. What challenges will you face? These are the challenges you will face, because in these worlds, you are going to have to be twice as good. And this is something that my mother used to tell me all the time. Son, you can't do the things that everybody else does. You can't go the places that everybody else goes. They will get a pass. You will not get a pass. You will not get a second chance. You will not get a second opportunity. And you can't rely on other people to give you that second opportunity, because if given the choice, they will not. And they have proven to not give you that second choice time and time again. So what needs to happen moving forward, right? We need to, moving forward, we need to create opportunities for ourselves. We need to create opportunities for others who we know that are experiencing this. And that's part of, what needs to happen in order for us as a community to continue to grow. We have to go back and we have to help the next person up. And what I think is happening is attacking those systems that allow us to do that. They're attacking the systems that allow us to reach back and help. And so we have to create our own systems. We have to create our own opportunities to reach back and help and lift each other up. And without that, I'm afraid that you'll see less and less of people like me and maybe people like you in high positions or in notable positions in companies, in the army and military and, and government. And so it's super important that, now is the time for us to start creating those opportunities. One of the opportunities that I plan to create in my community, and I've started to create, is a basketball program. My basketball program is not only a basketball program. I have visions for it to be much larger than that. I want it to be a place where community can gather and community can feed off each other and grow together. And I want to do that through the game of basketball. And I see it being done in other ways. There's a program that I'm involved with that does it back in my community. It's called An Achievable Dream, but that was not started by us, but it greatly benefits young Black students. And I always wonder, where is the program for us, by us, that's giving back to those communities? And I can see those programs for what they are. Honestly, it's a tax write-off for the rich, and I know what they stand for. I know what they've become, and what we need to do is create those opportunities for ourselves. Let's create those programs that are for us, by us, that greatly affect and provide opportunities for the people in our community. With that being said, leave me a comment down below. How do you feel about diversity, equity, and inclusion? How has this affected you? If it's affected you, is there an experience that you would like to share with me down below? Maybe you experienced something similar to what I have, but let me know in the comments. And make sure you subscribe, like this video, and also hit that notification bell so you can get updates on when I'm posting. Today was an interesting topic, and I want to dive deeper into some of these topics. But I think we had a pretty good discussion about pretty good opening discussion about some of these things. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.